Oh, I'm on the table where I fix stuff. Today we have this very sad looking Brunsviga Midget, and when they said midget, they weren't kidding. This thing is really small, a lot smaller than I was expecting it to be. Um, it's almost like you could use this handheld basically. It's frozen, of course, pretty rusty, barely turns a little bit, but this thing's pretty cool actually. So when I call it the first handheld calculator. Of course, it is pretty heavy. You wouldn't want to use it like that for long, but it is small enough to do so. Another cool thing about this is it almost looks like the design is exactly the same as the full-size Brunsviga Model A. Like usually when manufacturers, shrink their designs down, even if the internal mechanism is pretty much the same, they usually change like the outside appearance. When Monroe went from the Model K to the Model L, the internal mechanism was basically just miniaturized for the most part, but the outside design was completely changed. This almost looks like someone made a scale model of a Brunsviga Model A. Like it's almost exactly like it. Just to illustrate my point, I bought in the Brunsviga Model A. Now this originally would have had some kind of case like this. Would have had a wooden base and then actually a wooden case that would lock on the top, but of course that's missing on this one. This one, open it up. You can see it's almost like an exact scale model. Looks like the wing nuts are different home positions here, but everything's like scaled down. It almost looks like a scale model. It's pretty cool. That they did that actually. Now this is different, and the reason for that, same with the decimal pointers, is this is actually a much older model than this would have been. This is number 17738, and this is number 5172. So as far as I can tell, this one's from around 1899. Well, this one's probably from around 1910 or 1915, something like that. So this one has the register clearing wing nut, or the input clearing wing nut, so this will clear out the sliders, well this one does not. And this one has the newer style register release, this one has the older style. I do have another Brunsviga Model A, which is around like 8,000 something, and that register release is similar to this and also has the input clearing thing too, but yeah, it's almost like an exact scaled down. It's pretty cool. This one would have had like little pins that went in for the decimal indicators. Well, this one has the newer style sliding ones, and of course the pins are missing on here. But yeah, even like this piece over here is like the exact same style, just scaled down. That's pretty cool. Anyway, so yeah, the case is missing on this one. You can see it's got a logo on the front here for the original importer, because of course these were made in Germany. This one, so it says Carl something, land title building, Philadelphia. If you flip it around, as the patent information on the back. It's patented in the United States in 1906. This one we can also flip around. This one has some stuff on the back as well. Oop, no, it doesn't. My other one must then. This one actually has it. It's missing its feet, so it's kind of hard to pick up. This one has information on the side. See there. Alright, anyway, let's get this out of the way. This is not the subject of today's video. Set that off to the side and can start taking a look at this. I have to be careful. I don't want to mess up the logo on the back, so I can't pick it up. It's kind of like you want to palm it like this, but you can't because do that too much, you'll rub the logo off the back, so let's not do that. Yep. Anyway, like I said, this is pretty well, this turns, but this is pretty well froze up. This won't move because the handle's not in the home position, and probably the same for this. This doesn't want to move either, so see if we can get this apart, clean it up. Not sure if I want to paint this to match the 1899 one that you just saw, if I want to paint it to match my later one. My later one has a silver cover, so if I painted this silver, then it basically would be like an exact scale replica of that. Or also, if you wanted to pick it up that way, see the little tiny bell there. You know, same position, same shape as the larger one. Even this little plate on the side, it's like the exact same style as the larger Model A. It's like everything was just scaled down. It's pretty cool. So we'll open this up and see what we can do with it. Alright, so let's start by taking the, taking the screw out of this cover here. That's actually good. It's not even see how shiny. Screw doesn't look rusty, just the head does. So hopefully these will come out. Maybe. I'll get a little bit smaller screwdriver, I guess. This will work. It's probably too small. This one doesn't seem too good. It seems like it gets tighter when I try to loosen it, so I'll have to play around with that one a little bit. See if this one will come out. Comes right out. So this one, get this out. Looks like somebody put it in. Okay. It looks like it's all bent. Here it comes. Alright, let's see how bad it is in here. Oh, not bad at all, actually. It actually looks pretty clean in here, surprisingly. These move a little bit. It's a good sign. A little bit sticky, but not too bad. So, the main... Yeah, this thing seems pretty loose too. So it looks like the main binding issue probably is this shaft and these bushings here. This is all rusty. Let's take a look at what we've got. So this is our pinwheel drum here. See, here's the 10 carries. Basically the same principle as the Martian. She seems pretty free. That seems pretty good. These will slide. Not sure if they lock when it's not in the home position. We'll have to check that out. This is probably locked because it's not in the home position. Probably same with this. Probably same with this too. This is probably also locked. So let me see. I wonder if I can just take this whole thing out. That will let me work on this shaft independently. So we can get that freed up. So I'll play around with this for a little bit, see what I can easily get apart here. Interesting actually, if you look at each of these, see they're numbered. Focusing on that. Each of these, so like that one says 6. It looks like it says 5, 4. So it looks like, yeah, 7. So they numbered each of these. So probably each of these pieces are like hand fit, or they have a specific property that locks them to a specific position in this drum. That's interesting. This is a true pinwheel, by the way, so actually, if you look, you can see the pins down there. See some of them sticking out, some of them haven't stuck out. So it's depending on where you put these, it pushes or retracts different numbers of pins. So the pinwheel works. So yeah, let me see if I can get some more of this apart. This would be the direction release. Actually, this seems kind of a little bit freer now too. I wonder if that was just stuck in the slot there in the case or something. Not sure about that. Anyway, let me see what I can get apart here. Alright, well, it's apart. Not the construction I was expecting, say that much. So there's the bed plate here. There's 2 screws in each side to hold the sides on. They go in the bottom and the sides like that, and then there's 2 dowel pins. This block here, the support for the clearing rod, was screwed in with 2 screws here, and then there's 2 dowel pins in that. So I thought I was just going to take this side off and then slide the drum out, but actually the way that they've done it is this side has a rod that runs all the way through the center here, like that. And aside from support, you can see here it has little holes in it, and it looks to me like that's some kind of locking mechanism for the levers, because now before these levers wouldn't move at all. Now look how free they are. And you can see the pins popping out and retracting as I move it. So that must be some kind of lock that you can't actually, so if you can see it or not, but here you see a little pin sticking out in there. It must be, yeah, if you can see how it pops out every time I move it 1 tick. So these will only move when those pins line up with these holes and can pop out into the holes. So you can't adjust it while it's not in the home position. Didn't actually know that these machines had that feature. It's kind of interesting. Anyway, so my theory is correct. You can see even with just the shaft in here, this is still pretty frozen. Actually, this might have been bent in a little bit. I'll have to take a look at that. Probably the best bet would be to try to get this taper pin out. I don't know if that's going to happen, but that's what I'm going to try first, and then see if I can get this shaft out, clean it up. Probably run some sandpaper over it here, so I'm not pushing all this rust through there if I can get this taper pin out. This gear looks like it's not ever coming off of this shaft, so only way to get this out would be to take this taper pin out, see if I can do that, but I don't have the best luck with taper pins, so we'll see. Good news is this side seems nice and free. You see all the wheels down there turning. It's a little bit gummy, we'll have to clean it up, but nothing rusted or frozen or anything in this side, so that's good. Actually, with this in the home position, this should turn, maybe. I can get it exactly the right spot. And maybe it's not going to cooperate. It's too... Yeah, it's trying to. So yeah, see now it'll turn it. I can feel it pulling on the... so how this works is these little... wasn't even in frame. These little guys here pull on these tabs, and this rotates. See how there's 3 sides to it? So like, this will make one pass and pull these tabs, because there should be 3 sets of tabs. See, 1, 2, 3. So like this will grab, you know, the first tab, and this will turn around and grab the second tab. You know, if it's say like this, where the last tab, where it sits at 9, where the pins are all the way down at the front, then this will go past, push these tabs down. So these tabs will be like down there. Then this next one will come past, push those tabs down, and then finally the third one will come past and push the last tabs down, pushing them all to 0. That's how the clearing works on these things. Pretty simple. The carriage we'll have to take a look at. So now that this is off, see if this, yeah, nope, that works fine. Back side clear. See if we can set some numbers, random numbers in here. These seem like they're gonna turn okay. So we got some numbers set in there. That clears out. So that looks good. Obviously I'll take this cover off and see about cleaning You can see how dusty the digits are. See if I turn this one. Slightly less dusty on 2. You can get something like 6. Yeah, see how clean 6 is compared to the 0 next to it? You can see how dirty all these are. Actually feels pretty smooth. So that's good. We'll have to check out, these are the carry tabs. Basically look the same as the merchant. These will pop back. I can get one here. Yeah, so these will pop back when it's set to carry. And pop forward. That one feels pretty smooth. So actually maybe this will just need some light cleaning. And hopefully it'll be okay. As long as everything we've tried so far on this doesn't seem rusted or seized. So hopefully it's just a little bit dirty and just needs some cleaning up, and that might come back. So far the only thing that really concerns me is this. So I'm going to start with this, see if I can get this freed up, and maybe after that I'll just need a light cleaning and some reassembly. So far looking pretty good. Alright, so try to get the table pin out, wouldn't come out, so I ended up drilling it out, and that ended basically the same way the last time I had to drill out a table pin, with a drill bit stuck inside the remains of the table pin. But the important part is we were able to get it out without really any damage to the handle. You can see there's like a little bit of chewing there, and this side is a little bit, chip a little bit out to see if I can file that flat again. But the actual integrity of the hole seems fine. That's just like surface damage. You can see down inside the hole there it's not touched. Same thing with this side. If we can focus, like the actual hole through and through is fine. Same thing with this. Take it out of here. So it's just that shaft that comes out, and you can focus anyway. See, the hole is perfectly fine. Just needs a new pin, so that should be fine. I'll clean up this shaft, put a little bit of oil in the bushings here, which are not really bushings at all. It just rides right on the cast iron case here. See this? Turns nice and free now. So that should be fine there. Just have to find a new pin for that. Been oiling up these pieces here. Put this little tab back on because I have to take that off. You can see that's the ratchet mechanism. So when I start turning it this way, so I can't go backwards. I have to complete the, I just pinched my finger on this little carry incrementer to complete the revolution, and then you can go the other direction. Interesting little feature here, depending on which direction you go, it'll either it'll move this and either have plus or minus indicators visible through this little window here. So that's kind of cool. It'll tell you whether you're adding or subtracting. I guess if you use the machine, you would know, but kind of a interesting feature anyway. And this tab on the top is a release. So if you start going and realize you don't want to, say this says, oh now, subtraction is visible, I don't want to do it, I can push this and then release and go back and go the other way. So that's a little release there. So this is nice and freed up now. That spins nice and freely. So that should be good. Cleaned up this drum somewhat. Blew some of the dust out of there, cleaned up the old dried grease over top of all these pins. You can see how that works, how they pop out and retract based on how you rotate this drum here. You can kind of, if it will show, you can kind of see down in there, there's a little gap on the top there, and you can see that's kind of what pulls the pins up. So there'll be a little ramp underneath that gap that pushes the pins up, and you can see as the gap in that metal disc there advances, that's that goes along with the pins. So that's basically how that works. Just this rod here is attached to that whole disc, and that whole disc rotates and pushes the pins up and down as it rotates. So not a super complicated mechanism. And the advantage of merchants is with the moving segment instead of the pinwheel. Each one of these drums has to have minimum 10 pins, one part for each pin. with the Merchant, they eliminated that and just have the moving segment, so you're replacing 10 parts with just one part in the Merchants. So that's kind of what one of the advantages to that design was. The other advantage was that it wasn't patent infringing, because Merchant had originally started making calculators with this design without licensing the patent, and then got in trouble for doing so. So that's another reason why they switched to the moving segment design. So I still have to clean up the carriage here. I think what I'm going to do is put this back together. I did take this rod off. I have to clean that up yet. That just has the 2 screws here, and it has 2 little dowel pins there. And then that will slide off of here. So that just slides back in there, and then the 2 screws go in. So yeah, so far I think we're doing pretty well. I'm gonna polish up the rest of this crank here. I took the wire wheel initially and cleaned the rest off here, hoping that would help with the table pin, but of course it didn't. So I'll clean the rest off of this just to make it nice and shiny again. And that's about it so far. Looks pretty good so far. I did notice this has 2 bells. You can see there's a bell here on the bottom plate, and then the other bell here on the end of the register. So I'm not sure exactly what each one is for. I'll have to look into that as you put it back together. You can see these slots here. These, I believe, are for the counter clearing. Actually, no, these are for this. So this is, this is the carriage release. That's what those are for. So this pin on the bottom of the carriage will slot into each of these here. And it looks like this bottom piece, I think it's like one solid cast iron piece, it looks like. And it's pretty thick, actually. This is the full thickness of it here, and they kind of machined it down. It'll be quite a big block that they machined down there. And then this piece here is just a plate that they pinned on top. You kind of see the outline of the pin there. So that doesn't come off unless you want to drill out those pins. You can see in the front there where they machined in those latching grooves. It's the front end of these things. So I'll have to clean up this bed plate too. I'm not sure how the numbering system worked. You can see here we have 738. And I've also noticed that, I think it was also on this piece somewhere. Yeah. So also on the wing nut here, I was kind of see 738. But the actual machine number, oh, that's the last 3 digits, so 17738. Okay, that makes sense then. Oh no. Well, I didn't catch that earlier, but yeah, so that's the last 3 digits of the serial number. So how that means then is that each of those pieces were like hand fit to this machine, I'm guessing. I'm not quite sure what sort of hand fitting they do or what exactly, but see if there's anything on the carriage. Yeah, you can also see the numbers there on the carriage. You see the 38, the 7's kind of plugged up with dirt or something. So yeah, it's kind of interesting that they stamped the serial number all over all those parts like that. But anyway, let me finish cleaning up this piece, I guess. Probably clean up just in this bushing hole there, and then I think we'll put the drum part with the 2 sides back on the bed plate. I have to clean this up as well, and we'll go from there. Alright, so I'm doing some cleanup work on the register. You can see all the numbers are nice and clear now. Just took some denatured alcohol and went over each of those and cleaned up real nice. Blew the dust out of here. There were piles of dust in there, so I blew that out. There is a lot of rust on the tops of these things. However, I'm not going to be taking those out to get that off because it doesn't really matter. There's rust on the top of these because like nothing rides there. the actual part that engages with the machine is these back pieces. You can see those are worn pretty clean, from use. So also to take these out, you have to slide this shaft. There's a shaft that runs from this side of the carriage all the way through these gears, through the middle of these things into this side. So you have to slide that shaft out in order to get these out. And what I'm suspecting is that underneath the shaft, you can see there's a hole drilled in top of each one of those. So that hole looks down onto the shaft that runs through there. And on the bottom side of that shaft, there should be a spring-loaded ball bearing that acts as a detent, so that you can snap it. So now the ball bearing will be on the bottom side of the shaft, or if you pull it back, now the ball bearing will be on the top side of the shaft. And when working one of my motion calculators, they have the same exact design for that. I started to take that shaft out, and then it was incredibly difficult to get the ball bearing back down under the shaft and the shaft back through the middle of this thing. So definitely not doing that. It was hard enough to get one of them back on. I can't imagine trying to get all 18 of them back together like that. So we're not going to mess with that. This should be fine. They're all nice and free. No. They all pop forward, backwards and forward pretty nice. So not worried about that. That should be fine. This was bent a little bit, so I bent it back. That should be good now. This is the carriage release. I cleaned up this surface here because this rides on the tab in the back. And I actually had taken this whole piece here out to clean up on the wire wheel. And you can see these were initially plated with, I'm assuming, nickel or something like that. You can see how it's nice and shiny down at this end, and kind of more dull at this end where the plating has gone off and it's down to the bare steel. You can kind of see here too. See how the top of that piece is real nice and shiny? That's the plating still on it, and then of course the plating is off at the top where the rust is forming. And same thing with this too. You can see how most of the carriage release is still nice and shiny. If it would focus. Where the plating is still left on, and then where the plating is rubbed off, that's where the rust is starting to form. So yeah, I'm not sure if this was or not. I'm pretty sure the wing nuts were plated. You can actually see some of the plating still left on this one. What is wrong with this camera today? There we go. You can see some of the plating is still left there and a little bit there. So the wing nuts I'm just going to leave alone. Even if I clean this rust off, it would probably start forming again because there's no plating to prevent that. This I've covered with a light coating of oil to prevent rust, and the same thing with that piece in the back. I just cover it, the whole thing, with the light coating of oil to help prevent rust from reforming there. So I think this carriage piece is done now. In order to get this out, you have to take the bell off, which I took off. Then you have to take out, there's a shaft, take this screw out, and then there's a shaft behind there. You can see it right there. So that screw holds that shaft, and then this whole shaft slides out, and then this piece just kind of lifts out the top. There is a spring, you can see it hooks on here, and then right there on the back of that piece to spring tension it. So make sure that goes back in. I'm not sure what the point of this bell is. You can see the clapper here, but I don't see anything at all to actually engage with the clapper. You can see when I move the clapper, you can't really see, but there's a rod in there that moves, and that spring tensioned against the bell, and you can see that rod attaches to a little piece. You're able to see it's coming down underneath there. You can see it moving or not, but in that little slot, you can kind of see it moving there. But I don't see anything that would actually engage with that piece. So I'm not quite sure what that bell is for. The other bell that's on the bottom of the case, inside the actual calculator here. Bring this over quickly. So the bell that's down in there actually looks like what's going to ring on overflow and underflow, because this piece on the back of the carry trip, when that pops back, it'll head against this. Oh, now because it's in the home position, if I try it out. And that kind of rings the bell a little bit. It's not real great, but so that sounds like that's what's going to ring on overflow and underflow. I really don't see anything that engages with the clapper for this bell, so I'm not entirely sure what that's for. I can't imagine it's just for looks, because if it was, they wouldn't have even bothered to put the clapper in, so not entirely sure what's up with that. Anyway, I think we're pretty much cleaned up with the carriage, and with this piece at least. I'm going to put the cover back on the carriage. Actually, I'll probably clean this up a little bit. See, there's still some dirt over top of the numbers. I don't know if these numbers are hand painted or what. And they have little tiny decals. They all seem like, between this machine and my other two machines, they all seem to have like the same handwriting, like the number 2 looks the same on all my machines. So I don't know whether they had some kind of decals or stencils, or if someone hand painted all those and somehow made them all look exactly the same. Not sure, but anyway, clean that up. Be careful not to disturb the numbers on there when we clean it up. So the timing on this, I don't think I showed before, is the cutout in the disc on the center shaft. You can kind of see there's a cutout there for this thing to sit in. That has to be pointed straight up in the home position. At the same time, this cutout here has to be straight forward to the front of the machine for the carriage to slide through. And then the finger on the counter increment, which is this gear right here, is kind of back, down, pointed, basically pointed right at the center of this shaft. You can kind of see it. It's not going to really focus, but you can kind of see it there on the back of that gear. It's pointed right at the center of this shaft. Now that seems to be the correct timing for this. So, we're getting pretty close now. I still have to decide what to do about this. This is still pretty sad. I'm pretty sure this was nickel plated too. I don't see like the funny colors there, probably the corrosion of the plating or something. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do with this yet, whether I'm going to like clean it up and paint it silver, or just clean it up and put some kind of like, you know, clear lacquer on it to protect it from rusting again, or what I'm going to do, because even if this is steel, so even if I clean it up, it's not going to match the same, you know, shininess of the original, because the plating is shinier than just bare steel. As you can see evidence on this piece, how the plating that's left is shinier than the bare steel part. So, not sure about that yet, but at least we can put the working pieces back together and play around with it a little bit while we decide about the cosmetics. The carriage is back on, cover's back on, cleaned up pretty well. There's still a little bit of dirt, but not going to worry about that. I'd rather have slightly dirty numbers than no numbers at all. So, should be fine. You can read all of them, so it's not really an issue. The decimal pointers are off because they're rusted in place, so I have to clean those up. It's a little bit stiff at this end, but it's pretty free after that, so it would stop right about there. That's as far as it goes when I put the other stop on. But it's pretty smooth there, but at the end there's a little bit of stickiness. I might have to look into that. But for now, let's see what we can do. Just put this on temporarily. There it is, so let's try. 1, 2, 3. Of course, that's rubbing because this isn't held in the right place. Put this on so I can see my numbers. So this would go maybe right about there. 7, 8, 9, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, and 3, 2, 1. And that is correct. So we know division works at least. See if we can clear the input, and we can. That works. We can clear the counter. That works, and clear the accumulator. That works. Alright, so looking pretty good so far. So I gotta clean this up, so I gotta put the back on. That's still safely out of the way to protect the logo on that. Gotta free up the decimal pointers, but other than that, so far looking pretty good. Well, I also have to find another pin for this. I just temporarily put the original one with the drill bit back in there for now, just so we have something to play around with, but I'll have to find some replacement for that too. Alright, so putting this back together, I noticed a couple problems. One being that the carriage was very stiff at one end. It was smooth, and then it's still a little bit stiff down at this end. See, it sticks a little bit right at the very end. And what I found out was that the plate on the bottom of the carriage, so like this plate right here, was actually bent down a little bit at this end. So I just bent it back up a little bit, and it seems to have mostly fixed the problem. Like I said, it's still a little bit stiff right at the very end, so I might have to see if I can bend it a little bit more or something, see what's causing that last little bit of stickiness there. But otherwise, that seems to be pretty much okay. It moves pretty free, like I said, just sticky at the one end a little bit. So that should be okay. Another issue that I noticed was the bell clapper mechanism down in the bottom. It's not there because I took it out. And the reason that I took it out was it was jamming the machine on when it was supposed to be active, like on overflow, underflow. It was actually jamming the machine. The last carry couldn't turn the gear in that position because the next carry couldn't, or the carry tab couldn't pop out because it was being jammed by that mechanism. So what exactly the deal is with that, I'm not 100% sure. Like I said, this machine has 2 bells, and only the bell on the bottom seems to have a mechanism to go with it. So I don't know what the deal is with that. And also, like, all the parts on this machine, like the individual parts, are all stamped with the last 3 digits of the machine's serial number, which are 738. I think I have that right. Yeah, 17738. So the last 3 digits are 738. But if you look at this, it's stamped with 184. You can see. So there's 18, and then the 4 is kind of under that little hook thing. And if you notice, the top of the hook thing is a little bit shiny, and that's because I had filed that earlier because it was hitting on this piece each revolution. So that was already out. I had to file that to get it to work. And then when I actually started testing the machine, it was jamming on every overflow and underflow. So, you know, the part where the mechanism was actually supposed to be active was jamming the whole machine. So I don't know what the deal is with that. I don't know whether someone, tried to take that part out of a different machine and put it in here, but then it was never actually properly fit to this machine, and that's why it's jamming and why it was hitting on this, or what the deal is. I can't see how anything here could be out of time. Like, there's no other way that I can see to put this together that would alleviate that problem. This drum has to be in this position to line up with the digits on the plate. Like, if I put this plate on the top here, you'll see like everything lines up with the 0. If I move this one tooth, then there's no longer going to line up there. It's either going to be, back behind where you can't reach it, or it's going to be like at 1, which would be incorrect. So I can't see that drum being out of time, and I can't see this little wheel down here being out of time. That's the only place that it lines up with the metal piece here that slide through for the carriage interlock. So I can't see how that's out of time. And the issue is, if you'll be able to see down there or not. You can get a there, you can kind of see it right there, that little tiny nub on that wheel. So the idea of that is, I'm guessing anyway, put my tripod back down, that nub goes against this little ramp section here. And it looks like the idea is to keep the clapper from moving when the machine is in the home position. I guess, like if you pick it up and carry it around, that the thing's not clapping around inside there. But the problem was, by the time the carry got to this far across the machine, that little nub was already so close to the home position that it was blocking against this ramp and preventing this mechanism from moving at all, or at least moving enough to let the carry trip pop out for it to swing back and hit the bell. So, like I said, I don't know what the deal is with that. I can't see how anything in here could be out of time, or at least any way that it could be timed differently to prevent that. Because the only way that I can see to prevent that is either move that wheel down there so the nub is in a different position, or move this drum so that it tries to carry at a different time in the rotation. Like I said, I can't see any way to get it to work properly with either of those in a different timing position. So for now, I'm just going to leave this out. Maybe sometime down the road I'll find something out that kind of clears up the confusion here. But the fact that there's at least two parts to this that didn't fit properly. One being that little hook there that I had to file, and the other being this hitting against the nub at the wrong time, or at the time when it would try to activate, coupled with the different number stamped in it. I'm kind of suspicious of that piece. So for now I'm going to leave it out. The machine will work just fine without that. The only thing is you won't have the overflow and underflow valve. So other than that, I think we should be good. Like I said, I'm going to try and fix that one little stiff area here on the carriage yet. And other than that, I think we should be okay. So yeah, not a big deal. It's just kind of unfortunate you won't get the underflow, but like I said, I don't see any way, unless I start, manipulating this piece, which I'm not really keen on doing because I'm not quite sure, the exact process for how these were fitted. So we're going to leave that out. Like I said, it'll work fine without that. So let me finish putting these back together, and hopefully that'll be just about it. Alright, so I think we're pretty much done with this thing here. You can see I touched up the paint in the little window. Not sure what it's going to show, but the idea being that when you go forward, it shows a little plus there, and then when you go backwards, it shows a little minus there, just so you don't get confused with what you're doing. So that's readable now. I cleaned up this rod here that the decimal pointers slide on. I didn't clean up the pointers themselves because they're probably just rust again. So I cleaned up just the rod and put some oil on there. So now slide back and forth on there pretty decently. My only concern is whether or not the oil is going to wick up on top of there. Don't want to get covered in oil every time you move the decimal pointer. But anyway, let's do a little demonstration here. So we can do some addition. Do 1, 2, 3 plus 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So that works. And this will clear out the input. This will clear out the counter. clear out the accumulator. Do some subtraction. I don't know, maybe some random number here. 562. Let's subtract 8. Better clear this out. Go to 8. 8 or 9. It's 8. Seems to work fine. Of course, the counter went to 0, so I didn't have to clear that, but do some multiplication. And shift out 2 places. The register seems pretty free now, so maybe there were just like, a little bit of dried grease or something in underneath of it that I couldn't get at or something like that. Seems, that part where it was sticking somewhere at the end doesn't seem to happen anymore, so maybe, just sitting with the fresh oil I put in there, helped loosen up any remaining dirt that I couldn't get out or something. Seems fine now, so we'll just go with that. So we're 2 places out, we can do 6, 25, so we're going to enter it 6 times. See, our counter says 6, so I'll move over one position, we'll enter it 2 times. And move over and enter it 5 times. Yeah, 625 times 625 is 365, so that is correct. So we can do some division now, all the way up. So we're locked in, I guess we are. Must be. So we can do, I'm starting to move here a little bit. 355. Pins are super small, almost a little bit hard to grab onto. 355, so we'll enter that. Do 1, 1, 3. So we're going to now, unfortunately, there's not going to be any bell now because the mechanism for the external bell seemed to be missing, doing that, and the mechanism for the internal bell didn't fit properly, and I think someone put that in from another machine and it wasn't fit to this machine. So there's not going to be any bell, but we can watch this and see if we got a, call it an underdraft. No, the bell did ring somehow. Sounded like it rang. I don't know what rang it. I didn't see any mechanism that looked like it would ring it, but it sounded like it rang. Oops, going there. Yeah, I can hear the bell ringing. I don't know what's ringing it though. That's interesting. Anyway, I have to take a second look at that, but anyway, okay, so, well, let's continue. Shifted over 1 position, now we want to subtract. Ow. Little finger there moved and pinched my thumb. It's not a good place to hold on to this thing. It keeps moving. I moved over too far. That's one of the downsides of this mechanism, which they fixed later, is there's no just move 1 position thing. Just kind of push it down and just kind of to move it carefully until it locks into the next position. They later came out, I think, with some fancier attachment on the front here that lets you move, just 1 position more easily. Anyway, I can hold it this time without getting my thumb pinched. The bell for sure is ringing. I don't know if it's coming through in the camera. It's just a light little tink, but it is ringing. So I wonder if there's something like on the last, maybe the finger on the last wheel here hits the mechanism in there. So it would only ring when it carries off the end of this register, whereas the internal mechanism would ring anytime it gets to, the last carry position. Because the way this machine is set up, there's only so many carry, dogs in here. So if you got the register, all the way over, it's not going to carry to this last position. It's only going to carry, maybe to 13 or 14, I think. So it won't reach all the way out here, which means that if my new theory is correct, this will not ring the external bell, unless it carries off the end of the register here. So probably that internal bell was so that, if you got it in the home position, it only carries to 14, it would still ring the bell. But we can see when we get closer, because I think my other larger Model A, the one that has the bell, is the same way. Once you get past a certain point with the register, the bell no longer rings. So I'm kind of thinking that's the setup now. Anyway, let's continue here. Keep going too far, I have to go too back because I went too over. Yeah, see? So watch that. See? Now it only carries to 17. The bell no longer rings because it's no longer carrying off the end of the register. So that makes sense. So that's when the internal bell would start to be relevant, because the external one no longer rings. Anyway, I'm glad that works though. That's pretty cool. The little tiny bell actually does work. Just must have misanalyzed how it was set up. So anyway, continuing on here. Now you have to watch. Now we watch, we got an overflow, so now we can... Come on. What am I hitting on now? Let's try this again. Have to check into that. Again. Then we're at the end. Alright, so that is correct. So this should, there we go, 3.141592920. So that works. I'll have to check out that carry anomaly. So it's position 16. So if you move this over by 2, and then we subtract 1, should carry all the way off the end. It did. Now see if we can, so that one works. So let's move over one more here. Well, it seems to be working now. So I don't know, maybe I just didn't pull the handle fast enough. Sometimes these machines, the way the carry is set up, if you don't go fast and get enough momentum, sometimes it does jam on the carry. At least that's where the big ones are. You have to, maintain your speed, otherwise sometimes it jams. So maybe that's what happened there. I didn't quite go fast enough to get enough oomph. But anyway, this was pretty good to me. I did clean up some of the rust off this top plate. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with this yet. Probably the proper thing to do would be to go and get it, replated, but I don't think I'm going to invest in that. So, not too sure. For right now, it's going to stay like this until I decide whether I want to repaint it or what I want to do about it. But everything seems to work. The machine definitely seems to have come back just fine. So, pretty happy with how that turned out. And so now you just give a little push and it comes right forward. So, no concerns there with that now. It's pretty good. One thing that I forgot to mention is this machine does have an interlock. So say we enter something in here, and then if you move it out, you can't clear it. And the reason is because there's this little, my tripod's not gonna let me. That little tab back there jams it from clearing, so you have to slide it in, and then see how the tab pushes forward. Now you can clear it. Now you can, if you want, just push that tab in yourself manually and clear it. the larger machines have some kind of interlock in the bottom of the carriage that prevents clearing when it's not in the home position, but this one just has that little tab there, so you can manually override it. I don't think there's a manual override for the bigger machines, Model A, that has the interlock built into the bottom of the plate. But yeah, so pretty satisfied how this came out. Seems to be working just fine, and you can see even the numbers here clean up really well. You can easily read the red ones and the white ones. Yeah. Only part that's not 100% is, well, the internal valve mechanism and the top plate here. So, and of course the plating on these, but that's, pretty minor. Usually these end up pretty worn out, because you always got your hands on them. But anyway, so I hope you enjoyed this look at this Brunsviga Midget. I think this is a model MA or something. I'm probably going to time this machine somewhere around 1910. I've only been able to find one list of Brunsviga serial numbers, so who knows how accurate that really is anyway. Supposedly there were only about 3,500 of these things made, which is, pretty small number relatively. Kind of surprising that they're still around, but alright, hope you enjoyed this video, and thank you for watching.